This is Mr. Martin. This is a video for Unit 1 where we've been talking about inverses, logarithms, and exponentials. And in this video we're going to be talking about properties and solving. So notice our learning targets here. These are the things you want to be able to do. You want to be able to condense, expand a logarithmic expression. And you want to be able to determine and analyze solutions to logarithmic equations. So let's move right into the notes. For these first 4 examples, we want to solve these equations. So if you feel like you might want to give these a try on your own, feel free to pause the video now. And then when you restart it, you'll see the solutions worked out for you. So the hint here is to try to rewrite each equation as its inverse. So let's see how that works out. So for number 1, if there's no base, remember it's a base of 10. So I'm going to rewrite this in exponential form, which would give me 10 to the x is equal to 10, and my exponent here is really 1. Normally we don't write it, but once we do write it here, we can see that x is going to be equal to 1. Moving on to number 2, we have a variable in the exponent, and I've talked several times about the way you get that variable out of there is to use logs, because the inverse of an exponent is a log. So since my base is 2, I'm going to take the log base 2 of both sides. So log base 2 of 2x, log base 2 of 6. So then my log base 2 and my base of 2 cancel each other out, and I'm just left with x on the left side, which is going to be the log base 2 of 6. And we'll leave our answer just like that. That would be an exact answer instead of a decimal approximation. Moving on to the next one, again, let's rewrite this in exponent form. So I have 4 cubed is equal to x. X is already isolated, so all we need to do is figure out that 4 cubed is 64. Anytime you feel like the video is going too fast, feel free to pause. If you have questions, make sure you pause it also and write those questions down. Moving on to number 4, we have x squared is going to equal 25, rewriting it in exponent form, which means that x is going to be 5. Okay, so there's our first 4 equations that we solved. Some tips you want to think about when you're solving these equations, so refer back to these tips. Just like when we solved other equations, you want to use reverse order of operations. Okay, try and get the exponential or the log by itself. And then once the exponential or log is isolated, rewrite as its inverse. And we'll go through these steps on many of these problems. So let's take a look at this first example together. We've got to solve for p. So again, we want to try and isolate this part so that we can use our other techniques to solve for p. So in order to get that part by itself first, I'm going to add 4 to both sides. So I'm going to add 4 here and add 4 here. And then I'm going to go ahead and move my work over to the left here. So I get negative 4 log base 8 of negative 3p plus 9 is equal to 0. Then I'm going to divide both sides by negative 4. So I get the log base 8 of negative 3p plus 9 is equal to 0. And then I'm going to rewrite this in exponent form. So I have 8 raised to the 0 is equal to negative 3p plus 9. And I know that 8 to the 0 is 1, so I have 1 is equal to negative 3 plus 9. Then I'll subtract 9 from both sides, so I get negative 8 is equal to negative 3p, and then lastly divide both sides by 3, so I get negative 8 divided by negative 3 is equal to p, which means that p is equal to 8/3. And you can always plug this in on your calculator on the left to make sure that you get negative 4. Alright, so why don't you go ahead and pause the video and work out this next one. When you restart the video, the solution is going to be there for you. So, unless you want the solution to pop right up, pause the video now, and when you restart, we'll talk about the answer. Okay, so here's the solution for the you-do. So the first step we did was to add 5 to both sides, and that brought us over to here, and then we divided both sides by 4, and then once I got to this step I rewrote it in exponent form. So 2 to the negative 1 is equal to negative 3k plus 6. We know that 2 to the negative 1 is equal to a half. Let's do a little work here. 2 to the negative 1 is the same as 1 over 2 to the first, which is 1/2. So keep that in mind. And then it's just a matter of solving this equation. We'll subtract 6 from both sides. Since I need to get rid of this negative 3, and I've got some fractions already, instead of dividing by 3, I multiplied through by negative 1/3. Again, if you're having trouble with these fractions, you can do it on your calculator. Just use the math button and change it to a fraction. And when we multiply negative 1/3 times negative 11/2, we get 11/6, which is our value for k. Alright, so that's going to be the end of this video. There's some more practice for you to do. Again, if you had any questions, make sure that you have those written down and you ask me next time you see me in class. We'll see you in the next video.